Welcome everyone, Dylan Gemelli here today with a brand new video for you. So today I am going to discuss about my experiences with Melanotan 2. Now, most of you know Melanotan 2 is a peptide and it's really mainly used to just darken yourself up, to get that kind of tan without having to go to the tanning bed and etc. So I'm going to go way back because I haven't used Melanotan for now, it's almost been, about 6 years. I was actually living in Hawaii at the time, so I really didn't need it, so to speak, so much. I was, was living in Maui for a year and a little over a year and a couple months. And, lucky for me, that's where I met my wife. So I actually didn't enjoy it there that much, being trapped on an island. You think it's, so great when it is on vacation, but when you live there, it's another story. But that's neither here nor there. So, Melanotan 2. Now, I'm going to give you the good and the bad of this, because if you want to get dark, this is going to work. As long as you have quality, obviously, it's going to work. What you do when you take it is you're supposed to use it, and then you're supposed to spend a little bit of time in the sun. Now, obviously, in Maui, the sun is extremely strong. Some people might just hit the tanning bed. The tanning bed is not a good idea. I spent a lot of years in there, and I've been correcting my skin, with hypopigmentation from that abuse of being in the tanning bed when I was a lot younger, when tanning beds were first starting to get popular. And I was 16 years old, and this was in the late 90s, and that's when tanning became a popular thing. And we didn't know as much back then, like we do now, and I made a lot of mistakes in that regard. But with Melanotan, you take it, you sit out in the sun. Now, you normally take it at night, right? And oh man, the side effects on it, for me, some people don't get this, so don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to bash Melanotan at all, but I'm telling you what my personal experience was. And it is known to cause nausea, especially in the beginning, and that's why there's a loading phase where you start lower and increase the dosing. So for me, just immediately, I would get so nauseous, and I think that, I know that the first time I used it, the first 3 or 4 times that I used it, I did just vomit, just like within 4 or 5 minutes. I could feel it was funny to me because I was newer to peptides then, especially, and I remember upon injection, just within just a couple minutes, I sat there and I thought maybe the first time I was psyching myself out because I knew that nausea was a possibility. But I wasn't psyching myself out because it kept happening over and over. And within minutes, I would just be so sick to my stomach and so nauseous. And I would sit there and almost, and I hate to say it like this to this extent because it wasn't this bad, but when you have drank and you start to get the spinnies a little bit, you're about to throw up. I wasn't spinning like I was drunk or something, but I felt that same sort of type of feeling, and I would just sit there in my bed and I'd just kind of sit there and kind of rock back and forth, try to talk myself out of it. And then a couple times I just got sick immediately, and that was one of the reasons I hated it. I got way too dark. I got so dark within like 10 days, and granted, like I said, I was in Hawaii at this time too, so factor that into play here so I'm fair. I got so dark that it was almost ridiculous. People were stopping me because I would go to during work, on my breaks, when I would live there, I would go to the grocery store because I didn't eat any fast food or anything at the mall or whatever. So I'd go to the grocery store and grab a few things to eat every day. And the people there knew me, obviously, every single day. And, oh man, they were like, what are you doing? Like, are you just living out in the sun? And I just didn't even know how to answer them. It was embarrassing. I got so dark. It was bad. It was so bad. Like, I had to stop that one early. It was really bad. Now, the good in this is not only does it work a little too much in my, particular circumstance, but the libido increase on it is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I can vouch for that. I noticed that within just a few days as well. And I already had a strong one to begin with. And, I do, especially, at that time, still in my 20s. So, I think we all know how that is, at least for most of us. But then the next few times I attempted to use it, I remember, and I know the sources were good. It wasn't the sources. I am 100,000,000% sure on that. it just didn't hit me right. The next time that I used it, I literally was like, and it wasn't like I was nauseous the whole next day. I was just like flat ass sick. And I thought, okay, maybe I caught something. I mean, I'm one of those guys that I feel like everybody, if something happens while they're using something, they just automatically blame the compound. So I thought, well, shit, maybe it was the compound, or I mean, not the compound, but I might have just caught a bug. So I waited another month or two, did it again. Same thing happened. I mean, I felt the next day like I was completely hungover the whole day, and like I just felt weak in my body. I tried it one more time after that. I thought, well, I'll try it one more time. Same thing happened again, and that was it. And I have not used it since. That's just my experience. I know a lot of people that have used it with good success. I guess that my body just said, no, this isn't for you. It just doesn't work. If you want to get tan, go outside, okay? Or, you know, it's just not for me. I'm not saying it's not for everybody, but people always like to ask me, well, what's your experience like? What's your experience like? I wasn't even dosing full doses on the thing, so I wasn't overdoing it. You guys know me. I'm a moderate guy. I don't go insane on my dosing. And so for me, not the best experience. The first time through was probably my best experience, but like I said, I was so dark, it was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it almost looked like I was, you know, just living in the sun for 5 and 6 hours a day is what it would appear. And I was literally just sitting out the sun like 20, 30 minutes a day. You know, of course, I live in Hawaii. Who the hell is not going to go enjoy the beach, you know, as much as you can? Now, I worked a lot, so my 2 days off, I spent a good hour or two just laying out and doing nothing, because I was just kind of living that life where I just worked or I just relaxed. It was one or the other. But I was working a lot back then, you know, because there's not a lot of work on the island to begin with. There's not a lot of things, so I was working in sales, and I was constantly working. I was actually, you know, working like, you know, 5 days a week, but 10 hours a day. So, you know, it was tiring. So I took that time, sat out in the sun, and man, I'm telling you, that thing got me dark, too dark. So just be careful with it. Test it out if you're going to use it. Just be aware that it will possibly and probably cause nausea the first few times you use it. It's not a guarantee it will continue. There's going to be a nice libido increase. And it's just not something that you want to abuse and use long term, a few weeks at the most. So just keep that. I've done videos on how to dose it properly and etc. So before you ask me, oh, why didn't you talk about the dosing? Because I've already covered that before, and I was just giving you my experience with it. I have another Melanotan video that you can find. It talks about how to dose it, how to front load it. Well, not really front load it. I mean to ease into the dosing, that you don't want to go too high to start. There's like a easing into phase, etc. So you can watch all of that on my other video. So that being said, stay tuned for plenty more to come. Dylan Gemelli signing off.